Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all here tonight. Hello, Suzanne. Hello, Jens. Hello, Ryan and Yudi. I hope that emoji is not because you're sick. Hello, Julia. Hello, Kevin. And hello, Bhante. Thank you for joining us tonight. And hello, Stan. He just appeared in the room running and made a big solemn entrance. So he'll probably appear here or there. I suspect at a certain point we'll have a kitty cameo. Hello, Catalina and Sally. Oh, he's got the cutest emoji of a cat popping out of a box. Very auspicious of Stan popping out in the screen, just like that, probably. And Cam says, "Oh, good evening, our most favorite monastics in the world." Oh,
that's so sweet.
Oh, we love you, Cam. Good to see you all. Okay, and Yudi says, no, she's not sick. Just letting you know I'm taking precautions. Great. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Brava. Lead by example.
The mask emoji?
Yeah, mask
Good.
emoji.
Good.
Yes, great. Wonderful.
Yeah, the US finally caught on to what Asia figured out like 40 years ago.
Yes. But better late than never.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we can start with some meditation, guided meditation. So Bhante will be leading us in meditation, and then at 8 he will be giving us a Dhamma talk, and then we'll have some discussion later. And Trisha says yes to mask. Yes. All right. On that note, can relax.
So please get in meditation posture. So positioning your legs in a stable position that you can comfortably or uncomfortably hold for 30 minutes. So making sure your pelvis is tilted slightly forward so that your spine can rest upright without any effort. Swiveling your shoulder blades back so that your shoulders are relaxed and swept backwards, allowing your whole chest to be open and free. Bringing your hands together like so, with your thumb tips lightly touching, and just let this rest gently on your lap with your fingers resting against your abdomen. And take a few long, slow, deep breaths. With each breath, letting your body and mind relax. Especially relaxing your forehead, your eyebrows, your eyes, your cheeks, and your jaw. And letting a slight smile come to your lips. And let your breath return to its natural rhythm. And start gently repeating in your mind, may everyone be happy. May everyone be healthy. May everyone be safe. May everyone be happy. May everyone be healthy. May everyone be safe. Repeating this pure-hearted wish and trying to bring up the corresponding mind state, the corresponding emotion of unconditional, loving kindness for the whole world. May everyone be happy. May everyone be healthy. May everyone be safe. Just keep repeating this phrase and strengthening the feeling of loving kindness. May everyone be happy. May everyone be healthy. May everyone be safe. If you can feel that warm, gentle feeling of kindness, compassion, and well wishing, intensify it, strengthen it, brighten it, flooding the whole mind with it, radiating limitlessly in all directions, saturating the entire multiverse with the soft, bright glow of benevolence. May everyone be happy. May everyone be healthy. May everyone be safe. immersing completely in that joyful, loving feeling of limitless benevolence. Focusing on the pleasantness of loving kindness, feeling the euphoria saturating the experience of loving kindness. The more pure and radiant the loving kindness is, the more euphoric the body and mind become. Feeling that euphoria, that ecstatic bliss saturating the physical and mental world. And let it grow stronger and stronger. Whenever you get distracted, just come back to that repetition. May everyone be happy. May everyone be healthy. May everyone be safe. Keep focusing on that warm, loving bliss, making it stronger and brighter with each passing moment, keeping the mind steady, still, and alert in the midst of that joy. letting the bliss itself be your meditation object. May everyone be happy. May everyone be healthy. May everyone be safe. You can relax your posture. Do a little bit of stretching. And take a moment to rest in the peacefulness of the mind.
Thank you so much, Bhante, for leading us in meditation. And good to see some also other friends who have joined us in the meanwhile. And Venerable Akaliko from the coolest monastery in the world, the monastery at the end of the world in Australia. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Good to see you online. And Andy, good to see you as well. And Sally, hello. Michelle, Gautam, and Bella, hello. Melinda, Marielle, Jessica, Victoria, Rupa, Richard, Elaine, Suzanne, and Key, another friend from Australia. Wonderful. It's great that we have people joining in to practice together from literally all the different parts of the world, different time zones. Sadhu. Good morning, Ki and Venerable Akaliko. So, oh. Venerable Akaliko says, I'm here for Stan, but we'll stay for the talk. Well, Stan is obsessed with our resident Jen. So unless Jen moves in front of the camera, it looks like Stan won't be going anywhere else for the time being, but we'll see. And Key says, happy full moon day. And Melissa, good to see you as well. All right, so we can, I'll pass it on to Bhante, who has been tirelessly teaching day and night during this pandemic, and we're very grateful for that.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ dhammāṃ saṅghāṃ namasāmi. So, this evening I'm supposed to talk about the 7 factors of awakening, which is one way of translating the term Bojjhaṅga. And so the word Bojjhaṅga has 2 parts. The first part is Bodhi. So Bodhi means awakening. And this refers to enlightenment, to the moment when one clearly sees reality exactly as it is, and therefore transcends all suffering, transcends all dukkha. It's from the same root as the word Buddha. So Bodhi and Buddha both come from the same verb root, which means to wake up, to become awake, which is representing the fact that the rest of us are living in a dream world. The rest of us are living in an illusion, in a fake semblance of reality, a distorted dream world of our own imagining. And that through Buddhist practice, we can wake up to reality as it is, without our distortions, without our delusions, without our misperceptions. We can wake up to reality as it is. And when we wake up to reality as it is, then all of our suffering melts away. It's like waking up from a nightmare. When you're in a nightmare, you're terrified, maybe you're in pain, and then you wake up. And that terror and pain fades away. And you recognize that there never was a problem in the first place. It just seemed that way for a while because we were dreaming. So that's what it's like to wake up, to experience Bodhi. It's waking up from a bad dream, to realize that there's actually nothing wrong. So that's the goal of Buddhist practice, is to attain awakening. And different Buddhist traditions have their own particular ways of going about doing this. But all Buddhist traditions have the same final goal, which is to attain Bodhi, to attain awakening. And the other word in this compound, Bojjhaṅga, the other word is Anga. And Anga has a few different related meanings. So one meaning is limb, like an arm or a leg. Another is branch, like the branches of a tree. So these are very literal meanings of the word Anga. And a more abstract meaning is factor or component. So Bojjhaṅga then are the branches of awakening, the factors of awakening, the limbs of awakening, the arms and legs of awakening, the instruments that we use in order to approach awakening, the different aspects and characteristics of awakening. So the 7 factors of awakening are both qualities that we develop on the way to awakening, and also they are different characteristics of an awakened mind. So an awakened mind has perfected all the 7 Bojjhaṅgas, and therefore has all of them in their full measure, their perfect balance and development. So the 7 Bojjhangas are, first off, is sati. So sati is commonly translated as mindfulness, and that's a pretty good translation. And it's quite time-tested at this point. It's remained pretty much the same since Buddhism first started being put into English. Very early on, someone came up with the translation mindfulness, and it stuck. And it's pretty good. But whenever talking about sati in a Buddhist context, we always need to clarify that what we're talking about is samma sati, right mindfulness, which has to be characterized a little bit from mindfulness as it's spoken about in modern psychotherapy, or in mindfulness as it's spoken about in different forms of behavioral therapy, or the current trend of secular meditation and so on. So mindfulness these days has come to be used in a wide variety of non-Buddhist contexts. And in those contexts, it tends to have a somewhat less well-developed meaning as it does in Buddhism. So in Buddhism, sati or mindfulness is defined as the 4 satipatthanas, the 4 establishments of mindfulness, which I'll be talking about it at some point over the course of the pandemic PhD program. So the 4 establishments of mindfulness, I'll speak about them briefly tonight, but in more detail later on. Briefly, it's mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of mental states, and mindfulness of mental objects. And for each one of these, when the Buddha defines satipatthana, it's not enough just to be aware of these 4 areas of experience. He also says that one should be aware of them as arising and ceasing. In other words, recognize that they are impermanent, insubstantial, and impersonal. And also, one does not cling to them. One does not try to hold on to them. One does not either seek to get or to avoid anything within these 4 domains of mindfulness. So that's much more refined than just awareness. So mindfulness is sometimes translated as present moment awareness, but that's only representing a piece of what the Buddha meant when he said sati. So present moment awareness is a very important part of sati, but in order for it to be samma sati, correct mindfulness, proper mindfulness, complete mindfulness, then it must also incorporate the recognition of impermanence, the development of equanimity, and the practice of non-attachment, of letting go. So that's sati. The second characteristic is Dhamma-vicaya. This is the second of the Bojjhangas, the second factor of awakening. So Dhamma has 2 main meanings, a number of lesser meanings, but the 2 main meanings are either the teachings of the Buddha, teachings of all the Buddhas actually, because all Buddhas teach exactly the same thing, the same Dhamma. So Dhamma is the teachings that lead to enlightenment, the teachings of awakening. And the other meaning of Dhamma is any phenomenon, anything, whether physical or mental, whether solid or not solid, whether any sort of phenomenon, any sort of thing can be called the Dhamma. And the other word, vicaya, means to analyze or to examine or to investigate. So Dhamma-vicaya, then it can mean analysis of the Buddha's teachings. That's a perfectly valid translation. It can mean examination of phenomena. That's also a valid explanation. Or other permutations along these 2 lines. But those are the 2 main meanings. And we can also combine the 2. So it's examination of phenomena through the lens of the Buddha's teachings. So this is the angle that I like to emphasize. So it's examining our experience through the lens of the Buddha's teachings. So it's not just examining our experience just because it's fun, uh, or just because we like examining things. So you can go to an art museum and examine the artwork all day long, and that's not really Dhamma-vicaya, that's just examining artwork. Or you can examine the pattern in the carpet all day long, and once again, that's not necessarily Dhamma-vicaya, that's just staring at the carpet. Rather, what we're trying to do with Dhamma-vicaya is to come to a deeper understanding of reality as it is. So, examining our experience in terms of the Four Noble Truths. So, recognizing dukkha, recognizing its arising, recognizing its cessation, and recognizing what we do that leads to the cessation of dukkha. Also, examining our experience in terms of the three characteristics, seeing things as impermanent, as unsatisfying, and as impersonal. So, Dhamma-vicaya can also include considering and thinking about our experience in terms of Dhamma. So, this doesn't necessarily need to be a silent mind practice. We can also activate our thinking mind in order to think about our experience in terms of Dhamma. So always considering, how does what we experience relate back to the Dhamma? That also is an aspect of Dhamma-vicaya. The third Bojjhaṅga is virya. So virya, the etymology of this word comes from vira, the word vira, which means hero. It's, by the way, related to the European word virile, which means powerful or potent. So similarly, we have this quality of the powerful hero who goes forth to accomplish something. So it's not, well, these days, the powerful hero is the one who stays on his sofa instead of going outside. But that's slightly different. Actually, realistically, the heroes these days are the hospital workers, the people who every day risk deadly infection in order to help other people. Those are the real heroes these days. And actually, they are going forth and putting forth incredible effort every day. They are putting forth this powerful, potent striving to be of benefit to others. So if you want to know what it means to be a bodhisattva, go and visit the ICU in New York City. Actually, don't, because they're really busy and you'll just get in the way. But at least bring to mind what they're doing with a deep sense of gratitude and admiration, because it's very admirable. And I just mentioned New York City because it's right next door to us. And it's really bad there right now. But actually, the same is true in Italy, in Spain, starting to get bad in France as well. Germany is starting to pick up some problems, the UK. It's actually all over Europe as well. So bring to mind those great heroes who are trying so hard to keep the rest of us healthy and safe. But coming back to the word virya, so virya is that heroic energy, that heroic effort that goes forth and tries to accomplish something good. So that's also what we need in our practice. So if we just come here and we sit down to meditate and we're like, okay, now I take a little nap. Okay. And then the bell rings and we're like, oh, so peaceful. Yes. That's not virya, is it? No, not virya. No. And then the great hero went forth and took a nap. I can't think of any story where it starts that way. Of course, now that I've said that, there probably is a story somewhere that starts that way. And if there's not, someone's going to write it if they haven't been already writing it over the course of the last few weeks. But no, the great hero goes forth and strives to accomplish something. So in our practice, every moment we strive. We strive to remove unwholesome mind states, and we strive to develop wholesome mind states. Every moment we make that effort, whether we're sitting, standing, walking, or lying down. We constantly put forth effort to purify the mind, to let go of harmful tendencies, and to cultivate wholesome tendencies. Not just when we're meditating, but in every waking moment. We strive to purify the mind. The next quality is piti, which I like to translate as euphoria. And so during the meditation practice, I was giving some guidance on how to use loving kindness meditation as a way of cultivating euphoria. This is one of the more direct ways of starting to get in touch with piti, or this intense ecstatic euphoria, this very pleasant feeling saturating body and mind. It also comes up through any kind of ordinary samadhi practice. If we're diligent enough and persistent enough, then we can start to experience euphoria by focusing on any samadhi object. But loving kindness meditation can be a particularly quick, direct route to starting to experience euphoria. So this is really interesting to note. So euphoria, this very blissful physical and mental experience, is something that the Buddha singled out as being one of the critical factors for awakening. So Buddhism does not need to be this painful, grueling struggle as we claw our way with bloody fingers through the mind. No, it can be a joyful, pleasant, blissful experience. In fact, it should be. That's how the Buddha talks about it. Cultivating a blissful state of mind, joyful state of mind, filling the body and mind with this wave of pleasantness. So cultivating euphoria, cultivating a pleasantness of body and mind, especially during meditation practice, but also throughout our day. And the next quality, let's see, sati, Dhamma-investigation, virya, piti, passaddhi. Passaddhi is tranquility or serenity. So a peaceful mind, a calm mind. So this is a very important quality to develop as well. So keeping the mind calm and peaceful while also being awake, alert, and energetic. So passaddhi and virya always are kept in balance with each other. So we are energetically striving in a calm and peaceful way. We are calm and peaceful in a bright, awake, alert way. So we always keep these two in balance. If we cultivate energy but without serenity, then we get agitated. And if we cultivate serenity without energy, then we get sleepy. So we always cultivate both. And cultivating in balance, by the way, doesn't mean a weakness of one or the other. So you have them in balance, and in balance, you increase them both together, increasing them both together. So you can cultivate a great height of both energy and serenity at the same time without needing to sacrifice one or the other, and without needing to sacrifice both. So keeping these two qualities in balance doesn't mean keeping them weak. It means allowing them to grow strong together, allowing them to grow strong in tandem, simultaneously. The next quality is samadhi. So samadhi is another very important element of Buddhist practice. In fact, it's one of the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. And so samadhi literally means holding together or gathering together. So samadhi is gathering together the mind, collecting the mind, unifying the mind, stabilizing the mind. So samadhi doesn't necessarily mean narrowing our attention. What it does mean is allowing the mind to be unified and still, not scattered or dispersed, but unified, collected together. So samadhi. And very often the Buddha speaks about samadhi in terms of jhana practice. So tonight is not a night to talk about jhanas, or else we'll be here for a while. I'll talk about jhanas in more detail another time. I also spoke about it in a fair amount of detail when we went through the Anupada Sutta recently, so you can look up that talk if you want to learn a bit more about jhana. But I'll probably also talk about it as a standalone topic one of these days. But samadhi also, in general, it just means unifying, collecting, and stabilizing the mind. So the mind that is not distracted, not dispersed, that is not pulled away from the chosen task that we're setting upon. So samadhi, once again, doesn't necessarily mean a dead, lifeless mind. So you can also have a samadhi of engaging in one specific activity and no other. So for example, when you're sweeping the floor, if you just focus all your attention on sweeping the floor, then you'll develop samadhi. When you're washing the dishes, if you just focus on washing the dishes, then you'll develop samadhi. When you're walking, if you just focus on walking, then you'll develop samadhi. So samadhi doesn't necessarily mean complete stillness of body and mind. Rather, it means an undistracted unification of mind. Of course, the deepest samadhi is in stillness, but you can also get quite powerful samadhi in the midst of activity if you do not allow the mind to be distracted, scattered, or dispersed. If you just do one thing at a time, then you can get some amount of samadhi even in activities. And the final Bojjhaṅga, the final factor of awakening that the Buddha speaks about in this list of 7, the final one is upekkha, which is usually translated equanimity. And equanimity is a very good translation. So it represents a mind that is not pulled by preference. It's not pulled by liking or disliking. A mind which is not obsessed with pleasant, not repulsed by unpleasant, not confused by neutral. So a mind which doesn't waver, a mind which cannot be knocked off balance, a mind which is perfectly content with whatever sensation is arising. And the word equanimity comes from 2 parts. Upa, which means close or near, and ikka, which means to look at or pay attention to. So this is very important because what this shows is that equanimity is not indifference or apathy, because when the mind has equanimity, it's still looking closely at one's experience, but it's looking closely without desire or aversion. It's looking closely without turning away. It's looking closely without obsession. So the mind of equanimity looks closely with contentment. So all of these 7 factors support each other. They work together. They balance out each other. They nourish and uphold each other. So we try to develop all of them equally in our practice. We try to develop all of them as much as we can in every moment. And noticing when we're getting a bit off track. If we're focusing too much on the more lively, energetic side, focusing on the virya, the energy, focusing on Dhamma-vicaya, the analysis, investigation, focusing on piti, that bright, ecstatic, exciting euphoria. If we're focusing too much on the energizing side, then we might start getting a bit restless and agitated. And if we're focusing too much on the soothing, peaceful side, that's passaddhi, which is tranquility, samadhi, which is mental unification, and upekkha, which is equanimity, then we might start to get a bit dull-minded and hazy. So we want to make sure that we're developing all of these factors in balance. And all of them cycle around and circle around the central axle of mindfulness, the central axle of this clear, direct awareness of our experience in light of impermanence and non-attachment. So I think that covers this topic sufficiently to start the conversation. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and go through any questions. So please go ahead and type questions into the live chat and I'll answer whatever is there. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much, Bhante. And we do already have quite a few questions. Of course, Gabriella is on top of it. And hello, Rupa, good to see you. So Gabriella says, with Dhamma-vichaya Bojjhaṅga investigation of Dhamma, how is it done without discursive thinking?
So that's directly seeing your experience. Actually, that's the true form of Dhamma-vichaya. The most refined form is to see it without discursive thinking. But whatever your experience is, closely examine it as impermanent, as unsatisfying, as impersonal. That's the most direct form of Dhamma-vichaya. Yeah, so that doesn't need discursive thought. So you can do Dhamma-vichaya with discursive thought, but that's a fairly clumsy, imprecise way. It has its place, it has its value, but it's a fairly imprecise, awkward way of doing it. The most refined and direct way is to do it wordlessly. Okay.
Thank you. And Yudi says, I think it was related to something that you were saying earlier, not sure why they've chosen mindfulness, which equals the mind is full. Proper translations should be attention or introspection for sati, don't you think?
Not introspection. I would not use the word introspection. Attention is okay, but there's another Pali word which more closely fits the word attention, and that's manasikara. So manasikara translates very closely to the English word attention. Sati, I mean, to be honest, sati just means sati. So one reason why I'm okay with the word mindfulness is because it's been in use for so long in Buddhist circles that it basically is a technical term which just means sati. So mindfulness, the mind is full of what? Well, it's full of sati. So you basically have to define the word mindfulness by defining it as sati. So I'm okay with the translation mindfulness because it's basically neutral and bland and meaningless enough that you then define it as how the Buddha defined it. The downside is that then there's a lot of non-Buddhist or pseudo-Buddhist teachers who then define mindfulness as whatever they want to define it as. But that's their prerogative. People can make up whatever definitions they want. But the Buddha's definition of sati is quite clear. Again, I have yet to come up with any translation for the word sati that is superior to mindfulness, but I'm open. I hope that someday there are better ones. The field of translation is constantly evolving. And there's always new ways of translating things, and sometimes it's an improvement, or sometimes it's maybe not such an improvement, or sometimes it's highlighting other sides of a word. Yeah, I think attention and introspection are also not so great. Mindfulness is okay for now.
Thank you. And Gabriela says, also with Virya Sambojjhaṅga, does this include the creation of Manomaya Kaya, mind-made body, that is spoken of in Mahasakuladaya?
Mahasakuladaya.
Yeah, thank you. Sutta, Subha Sutta, and Samanya Pala Sutta, or is it unrelated?
Unrelated.
Okay, that was fast.
Yep.
How do we cultivate Piti Sambojjhaṅga?
So I spoke about that a bit before. So as you develop, actually any samadhi practice, you will start to notice a pleasant feeling in your body. All through the body, this very pleasant feeling appearing in the body. And in the beginning, it's quite mild and subtle. But you can will it to become stronger and brighter. And if you do, that tends to enhance your samadhi quite a bit. So tonight, as I mentioned, loving kindness meditation is a particularly direct way of starting to get in touch with piti, because loving kindness meditation tends to naturally bring up a feeling of euphoria if we do it sincerely. So then once you start to get in touch with the feeling of euphoria, then you can directly strengthen it through application of will. Okay?
Thank you. And Danilo asks, is it okay that as a beginner novice practitioner, I don't have all the terms memorized?
Yeah, that's fine.
And Gabriela says actually something quite amusing. Oh, don't worry. Only mad folks like me learn a dead liturgical language like I do, but I do it to remove ambiguity when talking Dhamma. Like the ambiguity behind samadhi, which can mean concentration, stillness, unification of mind, yada, yada. Easier just to call it samadhi.
Yeah, that's true. The more deeply one gets into the Pali language, the more one tends to appreciate using the Pali terms when possible.
Danilo says, yeah, I hope I can be like you one day. Cute.
Come and stay at the monastery for a few weeks. That will help a lot.
And Gabriela says, also, can one cultivate Upekkha Sambojjhaṅga actively, or is it merely an effect of elevated metta? And Danilo says, I'm not going to pretend that I can read that word.
So upekkha is something that you should be cultivating intentionally. If you just wait for it to happen, you might be waiting a long time. So yes, you should be actively cultivating upekkha, actively cultivate equanimity. And one of the ways we do that is by closely watching the mind. And whenever we notice the mind starting to veer towards liking or disliking, stop. Come back to contentment. And your equanimity will get stronger and stronger. And you'll start to realize that equanimity is incredibly pleasant. And there's no need to go seeking anything else. Okay, next question.
Gabriela also asks, so do virya and pasadi negate one another?
No, they strengthen each other. If they're developed in tandem, then they strengthen each other by making sure that they don't veer off into either agitation or dullness.
And does pasadi relate to samatha practice in general?
Well, samatha just means peacefulness. So yeah, there's a relationship. But you can also experience a certain amount of serenity through insight, because as you see clearly into things and you let go, then you naturally become more peaceful. You naturally become more tranquil. Okay.
How do you use pasandi, samadhi, and upekkha to counter restlessness and remorse? Udacha pukucha. Gabriela's on a roll tonight.
Just relax. Relax. There's nothing wrong. Just relax.
And Ryan asks, in the suttas, I see the Bojjhaṅga given as a sequence. Can they be developed in tandem as well?
Yeah, actually, I don't think of them as being a series, though some people practice them in that way, but I don't see them in that way. I see them as all being mutually supportive. So I don't see that you need to develop them in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but rather we develop all 7 at the same time. And if you notice that one of the 7 is out of balance, then you pay extra attention to bringing it up to code. But yeah, they don't need to be developed in any particular order or sequence. And as I mentioned before, each one of them is supported by the other 6, and each one supports the other 6. So this would actually take quite a bit more time to talk about how each one supports the other 6. That might be something I'll do at some point in the future, but not tonight.
All right, thank you, Bhante. And Yudi asks, do we need the 7 factors of awakening to achieve vipassana? Because most people think they can skip these steps and go right into vipassana. I don't think that's the case.
So vipassana means clearly seeing, and so the Buddha did talk about one method of practice where one starts by practicing vipassana for a little while and then switches to practicing samatha. And then once the mind is fully stabilized, one returns to vipassana. So the Buddha did mention one strategy where one starts with vipassana practice. But generally speaking, if you try to go directly to vipassana practice without already having a solid foundation to the mind, then your vipassana practice will be quite shallow and ineffective. It won't be a total waste of time. You'll still make a little bit of progress, but it usually doesn't go very deep until you develop a more complete holistic approach to practice. Okay.
And Venerable Akaliko says, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And Rupa asks, Sati, isn't that also keeping something in mind, memory?
It is keeping something in mind. That's another aspect of it, yeah. Yep.
And Danilo says, so if I understand correctly, while doing Anapanasati, me noticing recurring thoughts and patterns in my mind without thinking is the correct thing to do, and me being calm despite pressure is right?
Well, it depends on how you're trying to meditate. I mean, what you said is fine, but what I really recommend is if you're trying to develop samadhi, then you choose somewhere to place your mind, and you place it there, and you keep it there, and you don't let it go anywhere else. Then you'll develop samadhi relatively quickly. If you're trying to develop vipassana, then noticing the arising thoughts, recognizing them as impermanent, watching as they arise and cease, that's fine. You can do that as well. But your samadhi won't develop very quickly that way, because what you'll be doing is rather observing the arising and ceasing of mental objects. So that's a vipassana practice, which is a fine thing to do, but it won't develop samadhi very quickly.
And our friend Key is asking, how does one practice contentment without apathy? For example, if one is content or not averse to things, they might not care about improving the environment, human rights, animal rights, etc.
So this is why we develop compassion. Keep in mind that the basic attitude in Buddhism is wishing to stop harming both oneself and others, and to try to bring benefit to both oneself and others. So compassion runs all through Buddhist practice. So apathy is not compassion. Apathy is also not equanimity. If you look more closely at the attitude of apathy, there's actually a subtle undertone of aversion. So apathy is not a balanced, stable state of mind. It's a subtly hostile state of mind. That's not compassion, and it's not even equanimity. It's a subtle form of aversion. So look at that. It's not quite wholesome. It's not quite what we're trying to do. So yeah, the Buddha makes it really clear in the Pali Suttas that an awakened being works for the benefit of all beings. An awakened being is present out of compassion for all beings. So compassion is a critical element of the awakened mind. And it's also a critical element of the awakening mind, the mind which is on the path to awakening. Okay?
Thank you. And Venerable Akaliko, that's a question for you.
Uh-huh.
In the suttas, the 7 factors of awakening are often presented in opposition to the 5 hindrances, especially part of right effort to come out of unwholesome states and develop wholesome states. Can you discuss how each awakening factor opposes the hindrances?
Well, I would if we had another hour. That's not actually a particularly quick answer. I'm sorry, Bhante. Let's see. Can I give a hyper condensed answer?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay. Well, the 5 hindrances are interest in sensuality, aversion, dullness, agitation, and skepticism. So equanimity counters sensual interest and aversion. Energy and Dhamma-vicaya and piti actually all counter dullness, drowsiness. Samadhi and tranquility counter restlessness, as does equanimity, that helps there as well. Dhamma-vicaya counters skepticism. So does sati, actually. Sati also counters skepticism. Actually, sati helps with all of these. Yeah, those are a few things off the top of my head. Again, if I was really going to address that question properly, I would need quite a bit more time.
Maybe we can do a talk on that specifically.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank
Okay.
you, Venerable, for your question, for suggesting it. It's a great topic. And Melvin says, when we speak of physical and mental euphoria from dharmic experiences or meditation, how does that differ from drug experiences that bring similar pleasurable feelings other than the obvious causes?
Well, the sensation actually can be quite similar. In fact, it is quite similar. The main difference is that the euphoria that comes through samadhi is very pure, very peaceful, very bright and clear, and it also can become much more intense, much more powerful. Those are the main differences.
And Kevin, for the welfare of all beings, is reminding us to practice dana. And if you want to support the monastery, you can go on buddhistinsights.com/donate. And all the information is there. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Kevin.
And Sally says, may I ask, Bhante mentioned the fourth foundation of sati is mental object. I saw some translation as Dhamma. How to understand mental object as Dhamma?
So I mentioned earlier that Dhamma has two main meanings. There's actually a third main meaning, which is kind of a subset of phenomena. So that third main meaning is mental object. And actually, the fourth foundation of mindfulness, there's some debate among scholars as to whether the Buddha is talking about Dhammas in the sense of teachings, aspects of the Buddha's teachings, or whether it means mental objects in the sense of objects that appear in the mind, or whether it means phenomena in general, referring to all sankharas, all phenomena. So that I'll just have to talk about in more detail when it comes time to talk about the fourth satipatthana, to talk about that debate. These days I'm leaning towards mental objects as being what the Buddha is referring to there, particularly because in the Chinese parallels to the Pali Satipatthana Suttas, it very clearly means that. It very clearly means mental objects. But again, that's a much longer issue to speak about. So that'll have to wait till we go over the topic of the Satipatthanas. Okay.
And Gabriela asks, what is the hard difference between mind, citta, and Dhamma mindfulness?
Between mind, citta, and Dhamma mindfulness?
That's what it says.
I don't understand the question.
If you can clarify, then we can ask Bhante again. And Sally says, sorry, could Bhante explain again why sati contains no attachment, letting go? Is the word sati itself include no attachment? This is something really helpful to understand Buddha's teachings.
It's how the word is defined in the Satipatthana Suttas. So in the Satipatthana Suttas, under each section where the Buddha is describing the practice of sati, he says, how does it go? I'd have to look at the sutta to get the exact phrasing, but basically he says well, first off, he talks about letting go of both covetousness and depression, so both the tendency to grasp at things and also the tendency to be averse to things, so letting go of desire and aversion. But he also talks very specifically about, in Pali, it's nachikinchi loke upadiyati, saying one does not cling to anything in the world. So with each section of sati, he says, while one is paying attention to this area of one's experience, one does not cling to anything that appears. One is not attached to anything that appears. So he, in the Satipatthana Suttas, he clearly states that developing non-attachment is an aspect of practicing sati. Okay?
Right. And Danilo says, what is the difference between samadhi and vipassana? Should I do both equally or prefer one over the other?
You should do both. So samadhi is unifying and stabilizing the mind, and vipassana is seeing all of one's experiences as impermanent, unsatisfying, and impersonal. But the strength of vipassana practice depends upon the strength of one's samadhi. So without strong samadhi, your vipassana will not be strong. Without deep samadhi, your vipassana will not be deep. So if you try to only do vipassana, then it'll be shallow, it'll be weak. But similarly, if you try to only do samadhi, then you'll be peaceful while you're meditating, but not peaceful the rest of the time. So you need to develop both in order to chart an effective path to awakening.
And Victor asks, can we attend stream entry, Sutapanya, without knowing Pali language or Samadhi?
Yeah, but you should still learn Pali because it's very helpful.
Sorry. And Sally says, in the metta meditation, Bhante guided strength metta through will. I felt agitated, not stable in meditation because I have to generate metta actively. How to balance with tranquility and upekkha here?
Well, first off, I'm starting to get the sense that agitation is your main hindrance. So I would say that you might want to, just generally speaking, from what you're saying, generally speaking, you should probably make an extra strong effort to cultivate serenity and peacefulness in your meditation. So make sure you're sitting in a very relaxed way. Make sure there's no tension anywhere in your body. Really making a strong conscious effort to relax your body and your mind as much as you can. And also in your approach to meditation, try to do the meditation in a very relaxed, calm, and peaceful way. So if forcing it makes you agitated, then don't force it. Try to relax into samadhi rather than forcing the mind into samadhi. Okay?
All right, and Akadiko gives you the thumbs up for the answer in brief. And Sally says, thanks, Kevin. I actually tried to make Amazon wish list donation to Buddhist Insights. Tomorrow's Upasata Day. In Buddhism tradition country, people go to monastery to do dana. Oh, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yes, and tomorrow we'll also take the precepts when we'll be meeting in the morning and possibly also in the evening. We'll see. And Jen says, I also feel the euphoria from the Dhamma does not have the harm or destructiveness that drugs have. So the lasting feeling from the Dhamma is joy and peace.
Yeah.
Looks like we all have experience in the subject matter. Just joking.
Hey, it's the 21st century.
Or maybe not. And Gabriella has the last questions here on the list. So she's asking, the difference between drugs and euphoria is what is called divine niramisa. And in the Niramisa Sutta, Sanyutta Nikaya 3631, it lays a distinct comparison between carnal and spiritual euphoria. Actually, it's not a question. It's more like statements. Chittanupasana versus Dhammanupasana. That's why I utterly hate trying to use English translations. Case numero uno of ambiguity. How does someone know what their primary hindrance is? Here's the question.
So first off, Chittanupasana and Dhammanupasana. I mean, if you just read the Satipatthana Sutta, the examples the Buddha gives are pretty clear. So Chittanupasana is observing the states of mind. So mindfulness of emotions and mental characteristics fits under Chittanupasana. Whereas Dhammanupasana is observing objects of mind. So there's a distinction there. As for how to tell what one's primary hindrance is, well, watch your mind over a period of time. What most commonly disrupts or distracts you? Which of the 5 hindrances is most commonly present in the mind? So watch your own mind and you'll see. I'm just guessing restlessness because that seems to be the what you ask about the most often. But I don't know. I don't know because I don't see your mind. So look at your own mind. Which of the five hindrances seems to most commonly be present, or which one seems to be the strongest when it is present? Okay.
And Venerable Akaliko says, Gabriela, good question. I think it's so hard for us to see ourselves sometimes, but others see us so clearly. Arch. Actually, since we are seeing you, Bhante, right now, and you've been with us this entire time, perhaps your inbox will receive a message from Bhante and I, seeing if you want to appear physically in these talks.
Yes, so we might invite Bhante Akaliko to lead a YouTube Dhamma talk one of these days, or many of these days, as the case may be. You can no longer make the excuse about travel prohibitions because it's the age of interconnection.
Yeah. If the monk doesn't go to the mountain goes to the monk. I think it's Muhammad.
Did you just make that up?
No, we have it in Italian. I think if Muhammad doesn't go to the mountain goes to Muhammad. Okay, never mind. It's an Italian thing.
If the monk doesn't go to the YouTube goes to the monk.
Point being is that since he's not coming to the US, and then we can go to Australia virtually. So he's still present at Buddhist Insights. Anyway, don't worry, Bhante. Ooh, and see, there's also an immediate review, instant review from Key. Oh, I went on an online meditation and talked with Venerable Akaliko last night. He was great. Big heart. Yes. Big thumbs up. And Kevin says, thanks, Bhantinaya, for these talks. Seriously help during these strange days. Well, we're all helping one another, which is great and beautiful. So I'm quite happy personally, and I think I can talk for Bhante as well, to be connecting with all of you at these times. And Sally says, can we have the Mahasatipatthana Sutta teaching at some point? Yes, we're working on it. And Danilo says, earlier in the video, you have suggested that I should go to a monastery to learn more. However, the closest one to me is a Tibetan one, and I can't go because quarantine.
Well, I meant after the quarantine. And actually, I specifically meant this monastery. But depending on where you are, there might be other ones close to you that I could recommend. And just because the one nearby is Tibetan doesn't mean you can't go. So I've mentioned a number of times that I'm much less familiar with Tibetan Buddhism than with other kinds. But I have been on some Tibetan retreats, which I quite enjoyed. I've met a number of Tibetan Buddhist teachers who taught some really wonderful things. So there's much to learn there as well. But if it's not your flavor, so to speak, then that's fine. You just go somewhere else.
And there are a lot of requests on Chittanupassana versus Dhammanupassana, like a talk in the future. So we can do that. And Venerable Akaliko says, we have in English too, if the mountain will not come to Muhammad, then Muhammad must go to the mountain.
Oh, I've never heard it except from Ayasoma. And usually in these strange, awkward things like, when the mountain goes on top of the monk, then the monk goes on the mountain. And I'm just like, what?
Well, I'm not very good at translating. And so Sally has the last question saying, so Bhante, am I understanding the metta method right? I should more relax in metta intention and feeling rather than generating the metta?
Do whatever works. So this is the important thing. It's not the method, it's the result. Do you feel the metta? Is it powerful? Is it strong? Is it getting stronger and brighter? Does your mind let go of other activities and immerse completely into metta? If so, then you're on the right track. So do whatever you have to do in order to get that to happen. So the instructions I give are just guidelines on ways which we can start to immerse into boundless, limitless metta. But you do whatever works, whatever it takes. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante. And he says, I see a 7-day silent retreat coming up on contemplating impermanence. Do we need to be silent throughout, or can we just join in for the Dhamma talks and meditation like last weekend?
Well, that depends on whether or not you want to attain enlightenment. So if you're interested in attaining enlightenment, then you will act as though you were on a 7-day silent meditation retreat at a monastery. If you're not interested in enlightenment, then you can just join in for the Dhamma talks and spend the rest of your time watching Netflix and eating snacks or whatever it is you do with your time. So your choice.
This being said, if you have...
The residents, by the way, have to follow the schedule, just to be clear on that.
This being said, if you have some worldly commitments that prevent you from...
Like worldly commitments to your refrigerator, for example.
Okay, there are also people, Bhante, that are working from home. Anyway, so you're welcome if you can't physically attend. Physically. Like, you can't. Anyway, if you can't fully attend, it's still encouraged to join in. You're more than welcome to join in and be part of the retreat as much as you can.
Yeah, just don't be lazy. Do as much as you can. If you're capable of doing it, then do it. But be honest with yourself about whether you're actually capable of doing it or whether you're just telling yourself that you can't because you don't want to. So this is one of the challenging things about doing a retreat remotely like this, is that you have to be your own supervisor. So really, I recommend really try, if it's possible, try to treat it like an actual 7-day retreat. If you can't, then do as much as you can. But see if you can treat it like a full-scale retreat. Okay.
And Danilo has other questions on monasteries. So how about, Danilo, if you want to send us an email at info@buddhistinsights.com, we can talk about it there.
Yeah.
And the people are asking about the retreat. The retreat is starting next week. Right now, I don't remember because I'm very focused in the moment. Wednesday?
I think
starting
Wednesday,
on Wednesday. Yeah, so in 10 days or so. Okay. Anyway, you're welcome to participate as much as you can.
Okay.
As Julia says, Bhante, people do work from home.
I know. That's what I'm doing right now.
Anyway, so please participate as much as you can. And tomorrow, Sally's asking, tomorrow morning, 8 precepts is what time? It's always 8 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. So we'll figure out as we go. We don't really prepare things ahead of time, so so everything is unscripted at Buddhist Insights. So see you tomorrow at the usual time at 8 a.m. New York time and 7:30 p.m. also New York time. Okay. All right. See you soon and have a great sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.